This is the episode from which we get our name.
Okay, I can get on board with that.
And also why Charley is here, because when I made them watch, well, they accused me of making them watch the show after I made a video about it, and messaged me very angry at me when they got to this episode because what was it? You were very upset that I had made you watch all this so painful, and I said, well, this is Farscape, Muppet, sex, and trauma,
all in one episode.
Yes, especially the Muppet sex really contrasts heavily with the trauma in this episode. I had an absolute meltdown watching it for the first time. It actually physically took me, I think, probably a few days to actually watch the entire episode. And partly I just sort of stopped partway through and messaged Sara and was just like, why did you make me watch this?
Hi, friends.
Howdy, y'all.
Hey, pals.
And welcome to Muppet, Sex, and Trauma. I'm Sara Ezzat. I make the Fat Culture Critic videos on YouTube.
I'm Josh Gosdin, coming to you live from the depths of your imagination.
With a new microphone. And with us is Charley. We haven't had Charley in a minute.
I know, it's been ages. Hi, everyone. I'm Charley. And I'm just a nerd, or a big old nerd, as Josh would say.
You and me
and
both,
that's
man.
enough. And we are coming to you at stupid o'clock in the morning, at least for me.
It's slightly later in the morning for me, but it's a good way to start a day with friends, with Muppets, with sex, with trauma.
Yeah,
I appreciate you both accommodating my silly decision to be an Australian and be like 15 hours ahead of the rest of the world, or your part of the world.
With Australian with a day job too.
Yes, first day back at school tomorrow. I'm going to come in highly caffeinated, and I think it'll be good that I'll have just been able to speak about and process some trauma before starting a new school term. I think that'll be healthy for me.
Your students will benefit from tonight.
Yeah, you'll be a little less fractured than usual.
How dare you?
Fractures was written by Rockne S. O'Bannon and directed by Tony Tilsey. Moya's crew are preparing for their reunion with the Talon crew, but they're confused when instead of Talon, they find only a single transport pod. But this isn't the Talon crew. It's a whole different group of misfit peacekeeper prisoners. This group was placed in a transport pod to be used as target practice, and managed to outsmart the PK Tech boy piloting the pod. Our new guests are Hubero, the non-binary Nabari, Oren, who is definitely female and not a Hynerian drag Muppet, Najgil, the heat gland neutered Scarin, and a temporarily dismembered Boolite. Oh, and the PK Tech boy, but he's more of a hostage than a guest. Everyone is getting to know one another when the actual Talon crew arrives. John runs to the docking bay, eager as a kid on Christmas morning, but as Rigel and then Crace, and finally Aaron disembark, it dawns on him that something has happened. Aaron walks off, barely able to look at him, and Crace informs him of the death of his double. Later, John is unpacking his feelings, along with the bag of Talon John's things, when he finds Stark's old mask, which contains a message from his double. But he'll have to get to that later because Pilot informs him that someone aboard is signaling the Peacekeepers. They starburst away in time, but now each of the guests are suspicious of the others, and our crew are taking sides. Chiana is protective of Hubero, the non-binary Nabari. Dargo has fellow warrior feelings for Najgil, and Rigel is utterly smitten with Oren. Nevertheless, someone sent that signal, and the tech has been under guard. And as to the Boolite, Crace and Jewel have been attempting to reassemble the disassembled Boolite, but it's slow progress. Meanwhile, the best plan, repair the transport pod and send the guests away. But this means Aaron and John have to work together. He tries to give her space, but he wants to give her comfort, and she simply can't be around him. Dargo offers advice, but really, he doesn't know what to say. What could anyone say? Hallmark does not make a card for this. But no time for that now, as someone has again signaled the Peacekeepers, this time with Moya's coordinates, and it is too soon to starburst. Not only that, someone has shot Najgil. There is definitely a traitor aboard, something which is confirmed by the partially reassembled, disassembled Boolite, which tells us not only that there is a traitor, but that she is a she. In fact, it is Oren. She has freed the Tech and taken Rigel hostage. Tech Boy immediately shoots up the medical bay, re-dismembering the partially reassembled, disassembled Boolite, before disabling Moya and heading for the transport pod. Oren is also headed for the transport pod. Along the way, she takes some cheap shots at Rigel's ego and all too literal shots at Hubero. Aaron and John swing into action to save Rigel from the rapidly escaping Oren and Tech Boy. They board the pod in motion and take out Techie. Oren tries to flee, but finds herself in open space with only Rigel keeping her from floating off. And well, he is so over her. The Day and the Dominar are saved, but things are not resolved for Aaron and John. John finally watches the message from his double as Aaron listens in unseen. Telling John tells himself to finish the job he started and to give Aaron the time she needs. Finally, the whole united crew meets in Pilot's Den, and John announces his decision. He is going to finish the job. He's going to do what Jack and Talon John started. He's going to stop the wormhole knowledge from spreading. He is going to take on Scorpius. So, initial thoughts.
Charley?
Well, obviously, I love this episode, and I've been trying to think out why, and I kind of have to move back a little bit and go, what is it about complex storytelling that we love, or what even is complex storytelling? And it's something I sometimes struggle explaining to myself, even to my students as well. And like, what does it mean when we talk about having storytelling that is complex, and that's what makes it good? And I think this episode is a really good example of that, because I rewatched the episode recently, and I rewatched the entirety of the season recently. And I think that complexity comes in doing the unexpected in a way that it feels expected once it's done. I go into this episode and I'm so just overwhelmed by the emotion and the complexity of the situation between Aaron and John, and Aaron's reaction. And part of me is just sitting there going, but the man you love is right in front of you. Like, he's right there. You can reach out and touch him. That's all you should want right now, is to reach out and touch the man you love. He is right there. But for Aaron, he's not. For Aaron, this is just the copy, as Dargo says. Like, this John is now just the copy or the echo of the one she's lost. And it's so, like, both rational and irrational, both understandable and frustrating, and so almost unexpected in this situation, where you would go, well, she hasn't really lost the man she loves, because he does still exist in this universe and he's there. But then also so expected, where you watch the episode and go, yes, this is exactly what Aaron would do. This is exactly how she would react. This is such a deeply complex and difficult situation, and it makes so much sense for her character to have this sort of retreat into herself, retreat into that persona of the peacekeeper that we were introduced to at the beginning of the series, in order to protect her heart and deal with her grief. It's so unexpected, but so expected at the same time, and it's so dissatisfying and satisfying at the same time, because it's not giving me what I want as a viewer. What I want is for them to just be together and hug and smooch. It's not giving me what I want, but it is showing me what I needed to see, which is just this beautiful and complex and deep love story between these two people at a really, really rough point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
Josh, you wanted a reunion?
I got what I asked for. Yeah. I mean, I think Charlie, I think you said it beautifully just now. It's what do we want versus what do we need? What does Erin want versus what does she need? What does John want versus what does he need? And this whole like who is real and who isn't real question that we've sort of been batting around since John got duplicated has finally come down to the most, I guess, emotional answer, and it's who is real for Erin. You know, and what does that mean? And when Dargo tells John that, you know, you're just the copy to her, John notably doesn't, you know, overreact and doesn't, you know, like, oh my God, you know, why am I just the guy? Like, he lets that be. He lets that exist for Erin, and he doesn't try to change the narrative or change her mind or anything like that. And I think that's so important for hopefully more smoochies between them later. That's what I want. But like, who is real and who is real to each of us, and what is real to each of us, I think is sort of what this episode finally answers from that initial question. And then, yes, lots of Muppet sex all the way through.
I love this one. I love that we've got in a lot of ways we could have an episode that is just dealing with Erin and John reuniting, but instead that is sort of the B plot, even though it's the emotional center. Well, we have in a season of doubles, we have another set of doubling, another, you know, fractured mirror kind of thing in the you know, everybody else has, except John, has a mirror until John finally has his, you know, conversation with himself at the end. You know, so everybody, and it's a fractured mirror because like Najgul is very much, you know, the warrior who has also been mistreated by the peacekeepers, so he's a bit of a mirror for Dargo. And then obviously we have the non-binary Nabari as the fractured mirror for our bisexual Nabari. And I know, like,
intersex. You just like saying non-binary Nabari.
I do. I know intersex is probably a more accurate term, but like, yeah, I'm gonna say non-binary Nabari because. But yeah, which I think we have a very obvious criticism of the way that that's played out, but we'll get to that. But yeah, like we have our, you know, rebellious Gianna, who has always been non-conforming, with a fractured mirror of somebody who never could have conformed. And then, you know, Rigel, the double crosser, is double crossed by, you know, and the Dominar, you know, in the Patriarch is double crossed by the female soldier who's like the, you know, what he, you know, the betrayal comes from where he wouldn't expect it. And then we have a peacekeeper to reflect the peacekeepers. And then, you know, the sort of C plot, when we have everybody with fractured affections trying to put things back together, is we have the disassembled Boulite. Which what other show would ever give us something like that? With our two most like least main characters are trying to put together this.
And I'm so thankful for that C plot, purely for giving us Crace's scream of the most absurd scream for Crace is like this piece of Boulite lands in his and Jules's lap. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite moments of the entire series.
A lot of people thought he'd gone over the top. Like, sweetie, that's the moment you think you've gone over the top? Have you seen the rest of your performance?
It's definitely, I feel like it's those cartoony or comedic we've seen Crace so far for sure. And I love that they also got a, you know, butt joke in too while they were reassembling the Boulite.
Yeah. And in a way, I think that Jewel and Grace are good mirrors for each other.
We've got two people who would like to wear leather, absolutely,
and who are kind of arrogant, egotistical asshats who've had to try and find their way in our crew.
Have sort of fallen from their elite positions, the princess and the captain.
Yeah.
And they're just comedic gold, but yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I think I love that we have this multi-layered thing, and we have this very broad, very silly comedy next to this deeply painful stuff, and yet they managed to make it work. It's chalk and cheese, but it's some magical chalky cheese dish.
It's Farscape. Farscape is going to emotionally gut you and then make you laugh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and make you, again, just give you, it's so not what we expect. Like Josh, you're talking about like a reunion episode. It's not what we expect. It even, it plays on our expectations because it starts the episode and, there's a ship coming. It must be, the second half of our group reuniting, and oh no, it's these like weird mirror images of all the characters who stepped off the ship. And that was the sort of the perfect reunion moment was being set up there. We had all of the characters in the bay, like waiting and excited and talking about, their hopes and their fears, and, being ready there to greet back their long lost friends. And then not long after that, like, second try, this time it's actually Talon, and this time it's just John in the cargo bay. Everyone else is off dealing already with mayhem, as is typical for this crew. And we instead get the moment that made me pause the episode, and if I were watching it on a TV, would have made me throw the remote at the screen, which is obviously Aaron coming off the ship and just saying, "Hello, John," and then walking off. And it's such a, within the episode itself, a fracture between that like first setup for an idealized reunion versus the reality of the actual reunion.
Right.
And I love the bit at the beginning where Dargo is helping John pick out the perfect shirt. He's like, so how should I dress to see the woman that I love? And Darko goes, John, obviously the green is a very appealing color, but
far be it from me to say this.
Like I was watching that episode and I was like,
yeah,
it's such Dargo has very little in this episode, but he is a rock star for every minute of it. Like,
oh yeah,
it is very fetching on you. Oh, do you want advice? Well, honestly, I have nothing to say. And then he seeks Erin's consent to give her comfort. And when she doesn't give consent, he just, after last episode with the boys all trying to control her grief, he's just kind of like, okay, you don't want to hear it? I'm just going to be here, quiet.
It's nice because she's finally home too. I mean, and that's sort of the other running thread in this episode is what is home for everybody, and it feels good to see Rigel, and he's like, you better not have Frelling touched any of my dread, and it floats off, and Aaron being in that emotionally secure kind of place with her people, her Dargo. She's home. I guess Grace isn't really home, but Grace doesn't really have a home at this point.
Not really.
And then at the end of the episode, kind of Rigel and Shiana both having this like, I don't want to or can never go back to the home that I thought I had. Home is where all of your hearts are.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think, obviously, so much of this season, obviously the entire series, but a lot of this season has been with the idea that the wormholes are becoming a closer and closer reality, and John might be able to get home and him and Erin talking about him bringing her to, you know, his home and making her home his own home. But the John that she's been talking about that with has died. And so, and both of them have, like, you know, got a setback from actually the John also who had the wormhole knowledge to, like, actually make it home. He has died. So even though, like, the John who's here on Moya, you know, hasn't experienced getting so close to that goal, like we have as an audience, we've seen them get so close to that goal. And now we're stuck back in you know, in John's reality, where that is still such a huge unlikely possibility, and also the person that he would want to take with him, the person who has also now become his home. As much as Moya and obviously the others are also his home, Erin is the center of his universe, and they've now drifted apart. It's
yeah. So I want to take a minute to address the thing that I think is a problem. That we're just gonna address it and move on. It with the intersect a non-binary Nabari, it is just not appropriate that they would jump straight to the person having to display their genitals. I think that's, you know, like, in this damn near perfect episode that reads as a sour note, that they can't just say I'm a nonconformist, or they can't just say I'm an androgen. That they it would be like a, because that is just weird and clearly written by cis writers, and I think I don't think it's a thing that we need to discuss too deeply. I think it's just worth acknowledging that it's just not, like,
yeah. And speaking from, you know, the trans non-binary perspective, I do read Hibero, like, they're obviously much more intersex than they are a typical trans character, but there's a lot of crossover in terms of the portrayal of trans and intersex people in media, and also in terms of the real world harm and discrimination that we experience. And so much of the media representation tends to focus so heavily around the genitalia. What genitalia do you have? Can, like, show us the genitalia, or the big reveal, or the mystery around the genitalia, and playing up the mystery of it. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a cliche, and it's a problem that the way that it's revealed to Chiana and the audience is through physically revealing, you know, genitalia, even though we don't see it. That's part of it, the mystery of it. It's what would otherwise be like a good inclusion and good representation, to have someone who's intersex, someone who's, you know, on that gender non-conforming spectrum in the show, especially for a show that is so queer in so many ways. It is definitely a sour note.
Yeah, nobody should have to prove who they are to somebody else. And for anybody who's watching and listening, who's about to say, well, you know, Zan flashed somebody in, like, the second episode, like, true. And that was an entirely different character in an entirely different context, and two aren't related thematically. So yeah, a bit of a blemish.
Yeah. But I think I like the, yes, this is from my perspective as a cis bisexual person, but I do like the idea that we have here of a non-cis character and a bisexual character, you know, that is who are both from a society that is incredibly heteroromantic, patriarchy. You know, we know what the established of the Nabari is, so, like, them both being outsiders, and I love that. You know, that interaction, and especially to include that in in 2001 or 2 when this was written. And I, the way that, we as bisexuals have us, we are outside of that, but in a different way than, non-binary people or trans people are outside of the thing. Yeah, I like Gianna being confronted with someone who is even more of an outsider to Nabari society than her, and I love how instantly protective she is.
Which is very in character for Gianna. Gianna finds the like, I'm thinking back to when Crichton was, split into the primitive version of himself and the advanced version of himself. She was immediately like, this is, the version of John that people will look down on. So this is the one I want to protect. It's one of the things I love most about her as a character is just how protective and loving she really is, which also goes like against sort of the stereotypes around bisexual characters, which in some ways she is those stereotypes of being very sexually promiscuous, but she is also incredibly loving and caring and protective. It's she is a complex and well-rounded character. So we see that her relationships with people are also deeply emotional and caring. Yeah.
I suppose, unfortunately, the other thing that they do is because they kill Hubero, it is a bury your gays.
Yeah. I mean, at least it's not because they're queer in any way, but it's unfortunate. Although so chilling when Gianna goes, whoever shot you will be over there. And Hubero goes, what? I haven't been shot. And like we as the audience know what is happening. It's a very chilling line. It builds a lot of tension. And yeah, I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Frel, sorry.
This is like another piece on Gianna's whatever her ability that is unveiling itself slowly. That we had a little bit of in Revenging Angel when she saw the thing was about to fall, and now both people who get shot, she sees that is coming.
Which I liked John's rebuttal to her towards the end when she's like, "You're all gonna die," and he's like, "Is that a prophecy or is that just you being scared?"
Yeah, because he's taking her vision seriously. But yeah.
Which I appreciate, because on a show where it's like every episode something crazy happens and a character's like, I saw something crazy, it's always just so refreshing when the characters do go, yeah, I believe you. Of course that would happen. Crazy stuff happens every single day here. Like, yes, thank you.
We're in space. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No precognition. We've had our friend came back from the dead. And I was split in half. But no. but precognition, no, that's too far.
Yeah. We had a plant priestess who could psychically fight people, but no, not precognition.
We've literally had 2 Johns for half the season. But no.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of figuring out, okay, this is a thing that has happened enough times that we can see that there is something happening with Gianna. So shall we talk about Rigel and his smitten kittenness for Orin?
I mean, who can blame him? Did you see her like, oh boy. And the way her nose was just totally like, come on, man. Who can blame him?
Apparently, when they debuted the puppet, when David Kemper first saw the Daly's Orin in her red feather boa, he joked that Carol Channing had taken a guest role in the show. And Jonathan Hardy, who played Rigel's voice, said she was a common little creature that looked like Phyllis Diller to me.
But now that's in my head.
I'm like, and my response, it's a drag queen. We have a drag Hynerian. But obviously they reused the puppet, and so
Look, she's perfect for Rigel, in that she's terrible for him, but of course she is. Anyone who is perfect for Rigel would be trying to kill him. So yeah.
I do want to know
about it.
I do want to know why she was wearing a feather boa and like evening gown look to as a prisoner in what the hell, it's Farscape.
I'm sorry, would you want to be the peacekeeper tasked with like changing her into a convict uniform? No, I'm leaving her in her feather boa. Like, I'm not touching that. I get my hand bitten off.
Have you ever worn a feather boa and like by the end of the night that thing gets so worn out you're dropping feathers everywhere.
It does soak up a lot of sweat. You're right about that.
Alien feathers. There we go.
Okay, alien
feathers.
Maybe she was captured. She was a soldier. Maybe she was captured on an undercover assignment to a burlesque club.
Okay, we'll go with that. Answers.
It's canon.
Answers in the comments, please. What was she doing that required the soldier to be in feather boa, and how did she manage to preserve it so very well?
Or we don't really know what Hynerian military uniforms look like. Maybe they're fabulous.
Yes. Commenters, we would love to hear your thoughts on all of this.
Look, I mean, she's kind of painful. Her scenes with Rigel are painful to watch, and they're meant to be painful to watch. Yes. I think. And they're very funny, and I'm just very glad when they're over at the same time.
Just from the beginning when he's like, sniff, sniff, there's a female. Oh.
You guys have never done that? Okay, just, I'll see myself out.
Yes, Josh, we've never done that.
Fair enough.
Sniff, sniff. I smell a female.
I love. I'll say. I guess I'll choose my phrasing very specifically because Hynerian. I love a unconventionally not very attractive femme fatale. Because if you want a femme fatale and you cast Famke Jensen or Terry Hatcher or any Bond girl. Then that's one thing. But if you want a femme fatale who does it purely based on their wits and their intelligence and is the perfect femme fatale for the right target, I like that subversion. Like she is a femme fatale for Rigel because she is absolutely perfect for Rigel.
He has also not seen another member of his species, let alone a female of his species, in how long?
And he hasn't gotten laid in how long, too.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the body swap episode with, him and Shiana in Dargo and John's bodies, but we don't talk about that.
I love this show. I love science fiction.
I had absolutely forgotten about that. Thank you, Charlie. Blocked it out, maybe.
You're welcome.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of words for what Rigel is. I'm just not sure which I can say without getting us. Well, we're not monetized.
I curse like a sailor on this channel. I think we're okay.
Have you seen the name of this podcast?
I'm thinking of the word struct.
This is a very constructive term, yes.
Yes, which I will probably bleep out because as much as explicit as we usually are, that's probably a little more than,
Look, if there are two things we know about Rigel, it's that he has had many, many wives in his life, and that he has absolutely never made a single one of them orgasm.
No. Even
That's
though
true.
he's not a body breeder.
I did love that at the end when her betrayal is revealed and he goes, "You were faking?" Yes, of course he was, my guy.
They've all been faking.
Yeah, you're the dominar. They're gonna fake for you.
Oren needs a feminine phenomenon.
Boop, boop, boop,
No, I was going for Chapel Roan actually, but
oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
I'm now imagining Muppets doing HOTTOGO.
that is absolutely what just popped into my head as well. Like a chorus line. Dargo and John and Stark like kicking up their legs.
I was going for feminine phenomenon and get it hot like Papa John. Yeah, okay.
So this podcast is now sponsored by Chapel Roan.
We have 2 queer people, 2 out of 3 queer people. Of course, we're sponsored by Chapel Roan.
That's Farscape. We have a lot more queer people than that.
Yeah, I'm sure we do, listeners. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, and we have a drag Muppet, so you know.
Well, what we really need is a
phenomena.
Am I going to fill this thing with RuPaul's Drag Race memes?
Well,
I don't. Yeah, she did sashay away. In the probably the most memorable way you could probably sashay away. Being sucked out into empty space. Probably the most dramatic.
I guess Rachel decided to return the favor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, the Muppet sex. Yeah, in this particular episode, we've lost a comma in our title. It's just Muppet sex. And
I mean, it's Muppet sex trauma because it's traumatizing for us to watch the Muppet sex. So it's all one thing. Muppet sex trauma. There we go.
No, not even any spaces. It's just one word.
Yeah.
Muppet sex trauma.
Mm-hmm. We really don't want to be breathing in any of that.
No, not at all.
Not even in the vacuum of space.
Not even in the vacuum of space. You just know they smell terrible. Okay. Enough.
Charley.
They are amphibians. How do amphibians bang? I'm not entirely sure that they do. But space amphibians apparently do something that makes them fall asleep if they enjoy themselves and not if they don't.
Look, I didn't even need that. Like, Hynerians always sleep after. Like, if my boy's getting banged 5 times in a day, he's in a coma. I didn't need the biological species-specific sci-fi explanation that they threw in there at the end.
He kept saying, "You sure you want to go again?"
Yeah, like
because she's heard that as a dominar, he never stops.
He was done for after the 3rd attempt in an hour. He was.
I feel very attacked.
We have very unsurprisingly spent a lot of time talking about the Muppets.
I blame you too.
I deny nothing.
It's more fun than talking about the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the trauma is also interesting to talk about, but and we haven't spent. I don't think we've spent enough time talking about the reassembling of the disassembled Boo Light.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Boo Light special?
Yeah, that was. I couldn't figure out a way to put that in the summary.
I'm here for you.
I just love the Boo Light. Like, as soon as like a piece of the boulite was like picked up off of the floor, and it was like, yeah, this is all boulite. I was like, we need to get him back together straight away. I love this little guy. I don't know, just something about the just how terrible a situation that is to be in. I'm just like, this poor little fella.
This creature that can be blown apart without dying.
Well, I guess it also just reminds me so much of Jack Harkness from Torchwood, who, spoilers, will, like, you can do anything to him, and he, as long as you put him back together, like, or in a pile, he will, like, he will come back to life. And it's like in the show Torchwood, they really go to the extreme of just how terrible that would be. So I think I'm just experiencing that with the boulite, and I'm just going, this, like, let's get this boulite back together, please. Like, I love you already. Let's fix this.
You're also just a fan of the underdog.
Give me a pitiful creature any day, and I will connect with that thing, and I will die for it. And that is the boulite in this episode. Well, and John.
Oh yeah.
And it did give us the final. It did give us the final clue, which, interestingly enough, was a pronoun.
So we needed to establish the non-binary Nabari in order for the pronoun to be the key clue to solving the mystery of who the fuck was fucking everybody over after she was done fucking Rigel.
Well, you think that, but then they were like, what's the name? And I was like, has it already been established based on the pronoun? But I think the characters themselves were still a bit confused about Hubero. So they were also like, we also need a name, Boulite. And I was like, I mean, we as the audience know pretty quickly that she's very sus, but
Chris is very cis patriarchal, and pronouns give him trouble. So like he was still struggling to keep up.
And it's not established that Hubero has told anyone other than Shiana that they were there.
True.
And Shiana is not the sort who would out someone.
That's true. I guess I'm also just, and I guess that's my like queer perspective, because I'm sitting there watching the episode going, I have no idea what gender Hubero is supposed to be. How would any of these other characters know?
Yeah. They nailed a very non-binary, again, from the outside perspective, Hubero's look was very non-binary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the actor's identity, but have we seen an assembled boulite so far on the show?
We have not.
Because I'm familiar. I feel like we've heard of the boulites before. Like the name was not unfamiliar to me. That's a boulite. Oh, a boulite. Okay. But I couldn't remember what a boulite looked like.
I'm not sure, but I can't keep track of anything on Farscape. I just go with the flow.
The actor playing Hubero is a woman named Kate Behan.
Gotcha.
From Perth, Australia.
Perth.
Oh, the worst place to be from in Australia. I'm joking. People from Perth will joke about it being a boring place to be, but like with all of these jokes, the geographical jokes, they're always stereotypes. And I mean, if you're from Sydney, then you're just a terrible person. And I completely accept that as someone from Sydney. So I don't just dish it out.
That's okay. I'm from Texas. We got our own geographical jokes inside our state.
Yeah, I mean, we have plenty in Canada. But apparently, Kate Behan, who played, or Behan, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, who played Hubero, was in The Matrix Revolution. So, they played a coat check girl. So many layers of interesting gender stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's also just every Australian person in the film industry knows the Wachowskis and will have been in something.
Well, yes.
It's a very small film industry. Everyone knows each other.
The reason that Stark went off on a vision quest to find Zahn is so that Paul Goddard could be in the Matrix. So I think it was in the sequels by this point. So yeah,
it's all coming together.
Mm-hmm.
I rather wish it weren't.
But yeah, we didn't actually talk about in our last episode the fact that Stark has left, at least temporarily.
Well, thankfully, because as a new viewer, I don't know that he's left until we get to a point. Obviously he's separated himself from the crew, but I don't know what that means in terms of where he is.
And you shall see.
Yeah, you will see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, not anyway, just for Stark as a character. He's been very bereft since Zahn died, and it's also the cast is getting quite big as well. So I do also think it does kind of work, because it already kind of worked to split up, all of the characters for a bit. And have narratives focused entirely on one group or the other. And I'm kind of grateful that the main cast is slightly trimmed down. Although I really love Stark. I really love him. He gets so much hate from the other characters for no reason all the time on the show. So I do personally miss him. But having a bit less of a full cast is nice.
He's grown on me.
I think it's wise to it's interesting to have him not be around, because this is, Aaron and John are having to be very contained with their feelings, and Stark is the exposed nerve of everybody's feelings. So him going away, at least for a little bit, we'll not say any more about that. But for now, he's gone away. It's also we know how he was in the last big adventure. So maybe with the plan to go to go after Scorpius, maybe we don't need the guy who had a whole meltdown last.
Because 10,000 of his people were murdered.
Everyone
else just glosses
that
over
meltdown made sense. I'm thinking about the time when he couldn't get, when the typewriter thingy wasn't working, so he just started freaking out.
Oh yeah,
and had to be knocked out.
Yeah, Dargo
had to tongue him. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I love him. Dargo tongues people.
I love this show.
I wish he did it more. Sometimes I'm like, Dargo, what do you have a tongue right now? There's a standoff. Where is the tongue?
Budget.
You don't even have to show it. You can imply it. You can do that thing where it happens off screen, and that's really funny. He just needs to tongue more people. I mean, he's not tonguing Chiana right now. He needs a replacement.
Girl, take it easy.
I woke up.
It looks at the beginning of this episode, at least, like Jewel and Chiana are getting there. Trying on outfits and such.
Yeah, probably. I was going to equivocate and be like, no, that's what you do with your girlfriends. But no, yeah, probably.
Yeah, it is what you do with your girlfriends sometimes.
Swear to God.
Josh, you speak as if you have experience in either one of those fields.
Believe it or not, I've had a unique life, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, we already just kind of talked about Jewel and Grace, but the Jules' eye patch, which he gets at the end of the episode, it was purely, I think, because the actress had I think just a small injury in her eye, so she couldn't wear the contact lenses for the character or something. I remember hearing that. Yeah. But I really love her eye patch look. I think it's really hot, and and
I like the exchange of just Why are you wearing an eye patch? I got blue light in my eye.
And it's such, and it's in the scene at the end of the episode where it's just like the sort of anticlimactic Avengers scene of, you know, we're all going to stand up, except only a couple of people stand up to, you know, actually join John, and the rest are like, you're going to die, which is very far escape. But it's in that scene at the end where we're just going to take a couple seconds to explain why Jewel has an eye patch, and I love it.
And she's gone for an eye patch that perfectly matches her aesthetic because she is Jewel. So of course she did.
It's going to be fashionable. It's going to be hot.
You're perfect. You're beautiful. You look like Linda Evangelista. You're a model.
I mean, that's what I love. I do really like Jewel. I had mixed feelings about her for a while, but I do really love her. And I think it is that like mix of, she's a scientist, but she also slays. And I love the duality for her.
I think they struggled finding what to do with her, but I do like the stuff she gets with Gianna when it becomes a little less like cat fighty and starts to develop into kind of flirty. And I like her in this episode. I like her match with Grace. It's just and she's just a very excellent comic timing.
I agree. I'm also starting to feel like we're all just avoiding the trauma of Aaron and John's reunion.
Yeah.
Well, I do have more to say about it, but I've enjoyed so much this respite.
I think we all need to confront it together.
This is Josh now doing my job of guiding the conversation. Like,
no,
you're avoiding this. Yes, I am.
I'm doing Zahn's job of being the informal therapist.
Yeah.
Well, I did have another thing, which when I rewatched recently, just sort of a realization. So there's a conversation between John and Dargo, where Dargo, you know, says like, you're the copy now to Aaron. You're, you know, basically saying like John is not real. Like for her, the real John has died, and she's going through that grief, and it's just a disconnect for her. She can't go through the grief and process the grief of losing John while also having interactions and relationships with John. That's just
while he's right there.
While he's right there. And of course, I think there's also the fact that it's the thing that she was really fearing the most about, or one of the things she was fearing the most about developing a connection with John, was that it would, interfere with her ability to, perform her role and protect people, and also just what it would be like if she were to lose him. So now John, the real John, the still living John, rather, is a ghost. It's not even a ghost. It's just not real to her. He's a copy. And what I found interesting after that conversation, or before or during, I don't know, but there is also, I get the sense in this episode that John is also kind of accepting for the first time that he isn't a copy, and that the other John isn't a copy, that they are the same person, because they have so much since the duplication happened. They've been like, you're the copy, or maybe I am the copy. And this episode, finally, when one of them is dead, the surviving one actually has the realization of, no, we were the same person. And I think just that scene where he's going through the other John's things, which are also his own things, and he takes out Winona, the other John's Winona, and then he holds out his own Winona and the other duplicate. He holds them out in front of him, and then he slowly separates the two. He holds them away, and just the sort of where they're with him. And it's just such a beautiful moment visually seeing him process the fact that they are that one person. They are the same person. And they've also now separated and like irrevocably separated, as in one is now dead. It's just this weird, he's dealing with Aaron and what moving forward his relationship with Aaron is going to be, but he's also sort of grieving himself. It's this episode that manages to do so much. It blows my mind.
And it does it on the strength of Ben Browder's and Claudia Black's extremely restrained performances. Like they're very, what's the term in act? They're very close with their performances.
Reserved,
sure. And I also like in that, in the dual Winona scene where he puts the other John's Winona into his holster.
except that isn't two Winonas. Winona wasn't duplicated because he says at one point earlier on, when they separate, he says he took Winona. Talon John took Winona. So Moya John has been using a different pulse pistol.
I miss that, but
So,
yeah. I don't know
but
why
holding them out.
I don't know why she wasn't duplicated. I don't know why he didn't have, but they did at one point out that Talon John had Winona, and so he's reunited with Winona, which is a lot easier than reuniting with Aaron. But yeah, just there are two pulse pistols. They seem identical, but one of them is Winona and one of them isn't.
Yeah, but when you hold them out and they're parallel to each other and then moving away, it's that thing of I think what you're saying is or what I'm saying is they were the same and then they diverged. And he and the other John, they diverged, and from that point, you're right, they're not the same. And it says so much about how we think about identity as well. And the pulse pistols are the same, like they're the same gun. Like even if they weren't like duplicated, they look exactly the same. They're made of the same things. There's no visible differences, but at some point the Johns, they've separated, and how we think about ourselves and how we think about other people is sort of what makes them that. For him, that is Winona. For Aaron, John is that other John. And so they're both the same and they're not the same. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I love the closing scene also. I love the Aaron eavesdropping. I'm normally like, really? It's a giant whale ship, and of all the places that you're right there. But I'm okay with the contrivance this time around of Aaron eavesdropping on John talking to John. And B, I really loved the rock, paper, scissors callback on multiple layers. Like I was moved to tears when they were playing rock, paper, scissors, which fuck this show for making me cry over rock, paper, scissors. But when Dead John, that's what we're going to call him now, when Dead John, and then Live John, and they both go for it and they shoot scissors together, I think that there was a lot to that, not the least of which was Dead John reassuring Live John that they're both John. Like it was John reassuring himself and taking care of himself in a way that is really heartwarming because for a large chunk of the show, John has been terrible at taking care of himself. He's been terrible at being kind to himself. And so for him to consider himself and to consider what he would need if he were in Live John's position, if he were Live John, and to say like, hey buddy, by the way, remember, it's us. Like that was just like, come on. And I think that Aaron needed to see that too. I think Aaron needed the reminder that it could have easily been this John, but it just wasn't this John. It was Dead John.
And it's after he says, okay, but I'm going to piss you off. But tells him that he needs to give Aaron time. Because Talon John does know Aaron better than Moya John. I'm just gonna keep calling him Talon John and Moya John. He does know Aaron better because of what they've been through, and he does know what she needs. Whereas we've seen Moya John sort of trying to figure out what she needs. And yeah, I cracked the joke that Hallmark doesn't make a card for this, but like, what do what could you possibly say?
Yeah, sorry, I died.
Sorry,
as
I wear
I'm
the
handing
face
you the card.
Sorry, I look exactly. I have the exact duplicate of your dead lover.
Right.
But what the moment that I really love is when they have to work together, not just like the repairing the first one when they're working together when they're not under pressure, it's really awkward and awful. But then when they're under pressure and they have to swing into action together, and it falls into place so much that Aaron forgets that he isn't her John, and forgets that she references the green-eyed monster.
Killed me. That killed me too, Sara.
Oh, and it's such a small moment, but it's just kills you. And she has to absorb that moment and still keep going and still work with him. And
you see a little realization on his face too of his understanding of, oh, that wasn't me.
Yeah. Yeah. And yet they do work together so beautifully because that's who they are. That's how their relationship is built. I've been doing a thing about love stories with my Bridgerton video and thinking about, the different love stories and the love stories between two people who work together and whose knowledge of each other and whose love comes out of the working together is what we have with Aaron and John. And so, like, anytime they've had conflict, it's when they're not, when they don't have something to work for or fight for together. But as soon as they do, then it's like just like a perfect dance.
And I think that's what makes a lot of this work. I think a less competent story would have because it is a typical thing that we see in storytellings where a character will have a sort of setback moment where they sort of retreat into like the bad behaviors or the initial character flaws that they had at the beginning of the story in order to reaffirm by the end of the story their choice to their like character arc and character change. So they'll have like, it's very typical in a story, you'll have this sort of character setback, and like we see that with Erin, it feels like a bit of a character setback, or a huge setback for her to assume this peacekeeper persona. But what I think is done really well in this episode is that we see as the audience that she's not that person really from the beginning of the series. Because she still flows with John in those moments of tension, and because we get these tiny glimpses of emotion from her, an emotion that isn't anger. We could have had an Erin come back who was defensive and angry, and angry at the world and angry at John. We don't get that. We do actually get a character who is still changed very much. She just needs, for her own, to just protect her emotions, to be more reserved. And she's, pretending that she is that peacekeeper person, but we see that she isn't. We see that she hasn't actually gone back sort of artificially on all of her character development. She's just needed to pull back from a lot of the outward changes that we've seen from her, and obviously from her romantic relationship with alive John. So that's what makes it not frustrating for me as an audience member, where I feel like, she has actually gone back in a way that doesn't feel realistic. We just see that she's protecting herself.
Yeah, I love the moment with her and Dargo when he is offering her support, and she's very gentle in declining it, and very like that's such a nothing moment, and yet it's very very there's Claudia Black does so much in this episode with like no lines.
Yeah, she
It is
practically
a
doesn't speak.
masterclass in
That's what I'm
acting.
talking about. Like it's a very reserved, restrained, closed performance.
Yeah.
Love it.
But we see as well, like, I mean, Josh, you were talking about the sort of contrivance of her being there at the exact right moment to overhear. Like, I think she went there purposefully, or she gravitated to John. I think she still is drawn to him even as she has taken herself away from him. So I do think that she was there either consciously or unconsciously because she knew that she just needed to be there, just needed to be near him, or maybe she knew about the message. But yeah,
What a performance. What an episode. And we have the final scene where everybody is sort of the Council of War. And
very
so,
unenthusiastic council.
but with there's the theme that we've touched on a bit so far. Like there have been so many themes this season with the season of death and mourning and thing, but we also have this theme of essentially nuclear weapons. We have the and the sort of the Oppenheimer theme, which we have brought back here, the need to put the toothpaste back in a tube when it comes to wormholes, which Talon John has passed the job of that to Moya John, the remaining John. So do we have any thoughts on all of that?
I think it's a good contrast with sort of the previous season, the end of the previous season, where they all get they feel much more dragged into, or like John and everyone feels really dragged into confronting Scorpius. It's very chaotic, it's very unwilling, it's very disorganized, it's very motivated by individual interests. And then here it feels so different to have this sort of calm moment of them all assembled. Like it's very still as a scene, which is very unusual for Farscape, to have them all just sort of standing there still. We have this like beautiful shot of just everyone there and John being like, this is what we need to do. And it's not about them. It's not about what's just best for them. It's about what's best for the universe, which is what makes it, it's that, Avengers moment, team up sort of thing, except very Farscape still of we're all going to die.
It's the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah,
or Guardians of the Galaxy, much more. And so it just, I think it contrasts kind of well with the lead up into the finale of the previous season, where this feels much more, we've laid out the stakes slowly, we've built them over time, and the characters are actually going to, some of them purposefully choose to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do for the most amount of people. So I think it's a nice scene. I think it also works well that we had in this episode, we didn't really talk much about Najgil, but that we get to see a Skaran who isn't evil, or who, appears much less like intimidating than all of the other Skarans we've seen, because so much has been set up of, well, the Skarans are just so evil, they're so monstrous. We've seen how monstrous they are this season, to justify, with Scorpius literally showing us and showing John this, to justify why the peacekeepers are the lesser of the two evils, that they need this wormhole technology to stop them, this evil race. But we've only seen a few Scarran characters, so having one who's in this episode, I think, is actually really good and really purposeful for us, the audience, to remind us, hey, we don't actually know that much about the Scarrans, and sure, they're probably really bad, like any empire is in this universe, but that doesn't mean we should like agree with this, the nuclear weapon justification of, yeah, let's just destroy our enemies before they destroy us. So I think it's actually good.
And like any empire, the first victims of the empire are its subjects. So we've only seen military and political Scarrans. We haven't seen, I'm assuming Najgil was a civilian Scarran, just a regular guy who was just kind of hanging out before he had his heat gland cut out, which was suspiciously and appropriately placed right where his heart would be if he were one of us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, we have to save the universe. Kind of the moment there at the end of the episode was kind of lovely, actually. Everybody coming together through all their issues. Aaron being the first one to step up next to John, and Grace, of course, being the first one to step up next to Aaron. Like, it was all very just beautiful. One of my favorite bits from another favorite show of mine, Avatar: The Last Airbender, is when they go to a big library to try to find more information about their enemy, and they encounter the library's curator, who specifically says, sure, look up anything you want, as long as it isn't going to be used for violence. So, of course, they deceive him, and they find what they're looking for. And they get into the argument with the curator, and they're like, you don't understand. Our enemy is evil. The bad guys are out there. We're the good guys. And the curator, so masterfully says, do you think you're the first people to believe that your war is justified? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you were talking about, the lesser of two evils, Charlie, that quote sprang to mind. Because that's, nobody believes that they're the bad guys, even the bad guys. Scorpius thinks he's doing the right thing. Grace thought he was doing the right thing. The peacekeepers think they're doing the right thing.
Everybody thinks their evil is necessary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And everybody thinks that crossing those moral boundaries is a sign of strength. I'm doing what needs to be done, what nobody else could do. And it's a wonderful examination of kind of that phenomenon with this wormhole technology. And I mean, Dead John even mentioned also, like, Furlough's still out there. Like, the threat still exists, even if we take down the peacekeepers.
Yeah, but I can save her.
Yeah,
we stand Magda Zubanski in this house.
Go get your girl, Sara. She's about to destroy the universe.
As an Australian, I love whenever you, Sara, you have to explain to someone who this is, who this character is, and they're played by this actor called Magda Zubanski. She's literally one of the most well-known people in Australia. I got an ad for her on my phone today. Yes, we can say Furlough. Maybe, perhaps.
No, I just like jokes.
Anything is possible.
I've just decided to make that a running joke. Yeah, we have to try and put the nuclear toothpaste back in the nuclear tube, or the wormhole in this case. Especially which the two fascist, the two giant fascist powers should probably not have the power to destroy things. That might,
but nobody should.
At the end of the day, it's so meaningful that we're getting to this point with these characters who've been so much on the defense since the beginning of the show and have been so chaotic and so self-centered in their motivations, to have them do something for the universe. And just as it sort of parallels and mirrors John's journey in this episode of having to do the selfless thing of putting aside his own desires to do what's best for Aaron. Yeah, it's a lovely scene.
And they are returning to the people who held them captive. This is when, another reason I think why we have the Peacekeeper prisoners in this episode is to remind us that our characters are escaped Peacekeeper prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
And they are talking about going back to the people from whom they escaped, which they already did in season 1. They did to rescue Aaron. John did, and and then they went and they blew up the planet and everything. But that was to rescue one of their own. This is, they are making the active choice, and not everybody is on board for that choice. I'm surprised that Dargo isn't ride or die with John, because he usually is. But this is going back to the people who, who chained him to the wall by his collarbone. And so he just spent this episode, like, his double was a guy who had, surgery to have a piece of him removed in the exact same place that Dargo had the thingies to chain him to the wall by his collarbone. I think, like, it's where the heat gland is, where his heart is, but it's also like a callback to the to Dargo's chains. So yeah, it is a momentous thing to take
and so much
the
of his
risk.
journey has been trying to get back everything that was taken from him. Obviously, Joffrey, but also his, identity as a Luxon warrior. And so much of that has been his journey. It would make sense that he would not want to rush to have that potentially again taken away from him.
Yeah, because they're not just talking about returning to the Peacekeepers, they're talking about picking a fight with the Peacekeepers.
Yep.
I'm excited.
Losing it. Yeah.
So, are you ready to hear the title of the next episode?
Yes.
I yench, you yench.
Makes no sense to me. Good. Okay, cool.
Do you have any predictions?
No. Well, okay, so I'm thinking about the Shadow Repository heist, and I'm thinking that this upcoming episode is going to be largely putting a plan into motion that gets blown to hell by the last act.
Okay. So we have 4 episodes left. Yeah. And we have 4 episodes left of this season. We have one standalone, then the 2-parter that we will be doing. We will be doing as one discussion, and then the final episode of the season. I don't know who will be joining us for I yench, you yench, but editing Sara might include that here. Indeed, I do, past Sara. Our guest for I yench, you yench is Ren. Ren the Barbarian, the YouTuber? Yes, Ren the Barbarian, the YouTuber.
Let's all look at editing, Sara.
So yeah, we're coming into the season is coming in for a landing, and yes, we shall see where that goes. So, does anyone have any other thoughts on this remarkable piece of television?
Again, I rewatched it recently, and I just feel like television nowadays sucks. And then I get to rewatch Farscape and go like, oh yeah, good television exists.
Oh man,
it used to exist.
You have to see Interview with a Vampire. Good television is still made.
Yes, it's just so few and far between.
It is. It is sadly. A lot of television is being made, and not as much, and less of it is good. But and also I would put it Prodigy season 2. Holy fuck, is that exceptional?
Very good.
Yeah, I think that may be my favorite overall season of Star Trek ever. Like as a whole unit.
It's fucking amazing.
Charley has only seen some of the original series viewers, so they have a long way to go before they get to still watch Prodigy. but Josh and I both had the magic of experiencing. So yeah, very good television is still made, but unfortunately, too often they just make fucking Bridgerton. So, yeah. Also, I really liked My Lady Jane. That was also a lot of fun. Not as like amazing as this, but fun. But yeah,
I've heard it's fun. And I know the twists.
For something of this quality, I think I could say Interview with a Vampire and Prodigy.
It is
I
fun.
have seen some of Interview with a Vampire, and it's very good. I was kind of expecting it to get cancelled after the first season, and I was very surprised that it got a second season. So I might actually go and finish it.
They're making a third. We're gonna get Rockstar.
Miracles never cease. Miracles never cease.
Oh my god! They actually renewed something queer.
Exactly. Well, thank you. I'll take that under advisement.
So,
and thank you for having me on the show.
Yay! Thank you for being here. So, tell me, starting with Charley, is your favorite part of this episode?
Favorite part of the episode has to be the scene where Erin gets off the ship. And I say favorite, it's the most traumatizing, but it's also one of the most memorable of the entire series for me. And I think personally, I will never get over the initial reaction that I had to it. So it's terrible, but it's also my favorite scene. It's played so beautifully.
My favorite part is the conversation between Dead John and Live John. That whole scene was just so good.
Yeah. I think my favorite part is Erin stepping up to stepping to his side to gear, like after everything. We know how little she wants to be around him, or maybe she does, but how emotionally fraught being around him is for her. But she knows this is important. And just that moment where she quietly steps in. Or possibly it's all the tacky jokes about, they disassemble through lights. Unless he sits on his mouth. Yeah, I love that.
One or the other.
I love that there is some really good, ridiculous humor in this episode, right alongside the just utterly heart-shattering drama. What a show.
What a show.
What good Muppet sex.
I did at one point promise you that we would be getting Muppet sex, and you
delivered. It finally came.
And so did Rigel multiple times.
It did. I was glad when it finished.
And Oren not once. Well, no. She finished in a different kind of way. She got the big death.
She did, yes.
I'm purposely keeping my mouth shut because I feel like we could go on for another half hour of just Muppet sex jokes. And I don't want editing Sara to be mad at us. So
Editing Sara can take it.
The cheek, the nerve, the gall, the audacity, and the gumption.
You know, and folks, give us your best Muppet sex jokes because we do love your comments, and I'm going to read some.
Yay!
Comments from our Muppets from Space, Ren and my Muppets from Space discussion. Ren says, I'm really glad I wore my Bi Pride plaid for this review, appropriate for Pride Month.
We are glad as well, Ren.
Yes. Rose Harless, we know our Rose. She says, so you're saying the fact that Gonzo was always my favorite, more from Muppet Babies, but still, should have told me something. Because we talk about Gonzo being a whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And now, okay, now
signs were always there, Rose.
And now we come to comments from Revenging Angel. Devil Pamperbottom, who's a new commenter, says, I feel like I've stumbled upon something.
You absolutely have. And it's up to you to decide what you've stumbled upon.
Yes. And whatever you do, don't look down because then you'll actually fall. But maybe that's a good thing.
Another regular commenter, Jennyton, Suffer and Succotash, that was fun. Now I want to go back and rewatch the episode and laugh some more, which I will do alongside your reaction video so I can enjoy you both laughing too. I hope it was fun.
I had fun.
And Rose Harless, Wav, woo, Wav. But seriously,
Winning comment.
But seriously, and to bring it back to Star Trek, the episode reminded me of Frame of Mind. Aliens are trying to get info out of Riker's memory, and the rest of the crew shows up as facets of his personality. Yep, good. Yeah, good comment.
One of my favorite episodes of TNG. I fucking love that episode.
Yeah, that's the one where he's in the mental hospital, right?
Or is he?
I love that one. I remember watching it the first time as a kid and just being kind of, wow.
You both are just describing Buffy right now. You might as well be describing Buffy. Everything that was just said is applied to Buffy.
Everything is Buffy. Buffy is everything.
Yes.
Yeah. But they did it first with Riker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got a new comment from from someone watching our premiere. I'm a little late to the party, but I enjoy the discussion of Farscape. Well, Alfred Patio 619, welcome to the party.
Better late than never. Glad you're here.
And now we come to the choice. Jennyton again. How to greatly improve a Friday morning after listening to the news and feeling depressed. You know what? We were all there. Great discussion, friends. Love the reflection on hair and clothing changes as expressions of mourning or other upheavals and radical changes in life. Maybe ponder how the collective trauma of COVID lockdowns and enforced interruption to normal capitalist productivity obsessed society was reflected in changes in clothes, makeup, and hair. Wearing more comfortable clothing, letting hair grow longer, embracing the gray. Not exactly as a choice to when you couldn't access hairdressers, but when lockdown was lifted and people stopped working from home, some made the choice to put back the professional armor and go as they go back to work, choosing to get hair cut and colored and back on the heels, bra, and smart clothes. But others have chosen to make permanent changes in working practices, work-life balance, often reflected in greater freedom of expression in how they dress or wear their hair. Sorry, a bit of a tangent. Perhaps it's a good tangent. But that's where my mind went during your discussion. I loved Erin's look in the episode with a long dress and long loose hair. And it was painful, though understandable, to see her choose to re-embrace the peacekeeper soldier look away at the end.
I came out of COVID lockdown looking like Robin Williams after he was trapped in Jumanji. And so I did, to borrow a phrase, redon the corporate armor, but it was also somewhat pragmatic because it was difficult to eat with a beard that big.
Yes, I remember when you got your beard sorted to go back to work.
Yeah. It was because before that, and I mean, did I have a razor at home? Yes, but also at a certain point, it just became like, how big will this beard get? I want to find out. Welcome to the show. We're glad you're here.
Whereas I definitely had a how much of life can I go through without wearing a bra? Which, yeah.
So far, my whole life, I've been fine.
And we
inspirational.
Another comment on the choice. You guys are the best gift the almighty algorithm has given me recently, from Snark and Sass, which is a great screen name. And then they continue it. Farscape is one of those shows that I have not binge watched yet. My experience with it is sporadic. My understanding of the timeline is just barely.
I really enjoyed the depth you went into, and the lack of toxic fandom was so refreshing. Not sure how often y'all post, but I'm going to be back to watch your intro video and start at the beginning. Maybe I could talk a friend into watching with me. I'm an elder Gen X, empty nester, queer loudmouth activist chick. YouTuber and I paint on everything. The conversation about outer presentation of inner self. Wow, y'all, stockface. It was really great to hear your stories. I say I'm barely a girl. It's the best I could figure out, but before the right words and concepts were publicly available. So, I'm 56, class of 86, and I appreciate hearing y'all tonight. Just a lovely comment from
Really,
Snark
yeah.
and Sass. Yeah. Oh, then they add a reply. I forgot to mention I'm part Muppet.
Me too. We have that in common, Snark and Sass, and very glad that you're here. Very glad that we could provide that diversion for you. And if you're on board for absurdly deep dives into episodes tainted by sex jokes, this is the podcast for you.
Yeah. that is what we provide.
It's our shtick.
And I think that is all our comments that we've had. I think that's the yeah. Anyway,
and each one was iconic.
Yes, I think I think Snark and Sass gets the best screen name, but Rose Harless there with the woof woo woof.
Rose is wonderful.
Yes. So keep your comments coming, folks. We love them. And we'll continue to try and read as many of them on episodes when we have the chance. And yeah, give us your Hynerian sex jokes.
Please.
No, it's not a request actually, but
yes. What else do we want? How about what would that Hallmark card say?
Lord. Sorry I died.
Wanna bang.
Yeah, sorry I died and then you opened up.
Yeah, I was finishing the Hallmark card. Thank you for understanding my vision there.
I'm here for you.
Well, Charley, thank you very much for joining us. I know that you don't want anyone to follow you, but is there anything you'd like to recommend for our listeners instead?
Does not wish to be perceived.
Look, if you know where I am on the internet, then that's great. I'm not going to tell you though. Look, any recommendations? There's this fun show called Farscape that I recommend. But otherwise, really, I just want to, say to anyone out there listening, enjoy the unexpected wherever you can find it. Honestly, that's been my revelation recently. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I'm coming out of this episode with. So yeah, have fun.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And Josh, where can people perceive you?
I can be perceived on Instagram at Josh Gosdin. A lot of self-care happening over there right now. So if you want to come and chat and hang out, that's where I am.
And he may or may not be working on something that we can that he'll tell you about at some point when he's ready.
Mm-hmm.
Sara?
I am Sara the Fat Culture Critic on YouTube. I am also to be found on various social media at various things, the doobly-doo I usually do. Links are all there. So, and of course, you can follow the podcast at the usual places as well. And, we have our Patreon for if you want to be extra nice and support us financially. And we hope to, I'm not sure if we'll manage to get any more live reacts this season, but, we will see about it. and maybe we'll be get the premiere of next season as a live react or something. So yeah, I think that is us for now. And join us in about a month for I Yench You Yench and some other piece of nonsense in the in between. And someone help me. Help me end this.
Everybody take a deep breath and
Leave.
say, bye, y'all.
My panic reaction of leave, go.
my deeply ingrained Southern United States reaction of, all right, y'all, it's time to go now.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Charlie. Thanks, folks, and we will see you later.
Bye, everyone.
Editing Sara will tell you what's happening next.
You really put a lot on her, don't you?
Yeah.
Just shout out to editing, Sara. Like, really, Sara. Like,
honestly,
wherever she is, like, we appreciate you.
Actually, it is a lot of fun to edit a conversation of friends having fun. It's a weird, it's a very strange thing to get into the habit of editing footage of yourself, but a lot more fun to edit footage of yourself and your friends having fun. Other creators will understand what I'm talking about, and everybody else will be like, you are a weird person. So, okay, I am a weird person.
Yeah, we all aren't quite mad here.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not associate with you if you weren't a weird person. So
I'm always amazed at how many people you have to explain who she is to, because I'm like, did you not see A League of Their Own? Were you not raised properly? Like, that's where I know her from.
But she's in A League of Their Own?
Yeah, she's the kind of dumpy, frumpy hitter who Gina Davis takes a shine to and kind of mentors.
Oh, that's a new microphone, isn't it?
It is. It is. Weird how? Like, what do I need to do?
When did you get a Yeti?
A buddy of mine gave it to me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice buddy.
Different podcast we've been working on.
Oh, you're cheating on me with another podcast?
I prefer to think of us as poly podcasting.
I can get behind that. I can get behind that.
You should be promoting it on the podcast.
We're not ready yet. We're trying to stack episodes before publication. So we're about...
Fair enough.
We just finished recording episode 7.
Oh. What's it about?
Men's mental health. So it started with me and my best friend out at the bar smoking cigars and talking about, like, yeah, bro, like, good job with the therapy, bro. Like, I'm really glad that you're in touch with your real emotions, bro. Yeah, bro. And it turned into, like, other people should hear us having these conversations, bro. Yeah, bro. And so we roped in a third friend and turned it into a podcast where we feature each one of us and kind of our mental health journeys, and what it means to us and the impact that it's had on our lives and those around us and all that kind of good stuff.
I love that, and I look forward to promoting it when you're ready to.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm going to promote the fuck out of that.
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah,
this
sounds very wholesome.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. And our discussion
and
about
our Hynerian body humor.
Mm-hmm.